Welcome one, welcome all to my podcast focusing on your favourite sports and your favourite athletes on their Olympic journey. This is the road to Tokyo. This is 2020 Vision. Hello and welcome to episode 9 of 2020 Vision. This episode is jam-packed with amazing athletic talent. On this episode, we have 3 track stars from different walks of life. So let's get into it. My first athlete is Gikas, who is a runner with a high school track and field history. We joined him after he witnessed his NBA team win their first championship, so you can hear the excitement as he talks about that and his success on the track. Introducing Gikas. So mate, tell us about yourself. You're an athlete. What's your event?
I'm a 100 metre, 200 metre sprinter.
Beautiful. And when did you start in the athletics world? What made you want to become an athlete?
Well, I was kind of encouraged to do it when I was at school because I wasn't too bad. They played me on the wing when I played footy at school. And I wasn't too slow there on the wing. So they were, the school kings encouraged me to pursue athletics. And it was kind of something I did in the background because I played heaps of footy and heaps of soccer during school. And then, I'd say probably about 3.5 years ago, I made the decision to take up athletics full time. And that was how it all started. And that was how my journey in athletics started.
Beautiful. And you said you played football there. Do you have a team that you support?
Yeah. Gunners all the way.
All right. So you're football. You were talking soccer there. Okay. All right. I was thinking AF.
Yeah. Well, I do watch the NRL. And,
yeah. No, that's okay.
I'm a Tigers fan in the NRL, but
that's okay.
Doing too well recently.
No, that's all right, mate. I only ask that is because when you think of other teams and you think of like high professionals, you obviously base what you do in sporting on them. Is there anyone that you look up to? So you're saying the Gunners. Is there any one of the Gunners that you look up to?
Not so much the Gunners, but the best example I can give you is Kawhi Leonard in basketball because as we spoke about before this interview, I'm a huge Raptor supporter. So the presence that Kawhi Leonard has on his team and has on the game of basketball has been tremendous, not only this season, but for his entire career. And for him being a part of the team that I support, and watching the Raptors play every single game and seeing how he conducts himself on and off the court is like an inspiration to me because he's super humble but he kicks butt on the court, and that's something that I look up to. Keep to myself and do everything I can, but go out there and perform and have fun and enjoy the moment as well.
And in regards to performance, do you mind telling us what you've achieved whilst running? So you said the 100 and the 200. Have any achievements come out of what you've done so far?
Apart from the records and the wins at GPS Athletics and all that, I've ran the national before. I've won 100 at the nationals. And honestly, that's honestly about it. Apart from a few half decent races, that's honestly been about I'd say probably about until the start of 2018, I was running primarily for Kings for school. That was all I trained for.
Yeah.
And to be honest, at the end of the day, it was all worth it to compete in front of 20,000, 15,000 people, and those experiences make you learn a lot about yourself. And at the time I picked up athletics, all I wanted to do was to get something out of the experience, and I learned a lot out of that. And I look back at it and learn more about those experiences. Having those experiences in mind. So that's in regards to achievements. That's all I've done. You can go to the. I'm sure if you go online, you can see all the specifics and stuff. But I'm not really one to discuss that or talk about that heaps. To me, it's more of a personal feeling and enjoyment thing, and
that's right.
Enjoying the moment that you give it. And if you get a win, that's a win. But you're always learning and you're always progressing, and that's what it's all about.
You seem like one of those guys that doesn't go really out on the track for a win as such, but for a person just to beat that PB and keep on succeeding. And like that, mate.
Not even to beat like a PB. Like I just go out there and have a good time and have fun. It's fun winning and fun getting a PB. Of course it is. But to go out there and have a good, because if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then why are you doing it at all?
Exactly. So what What does your training involve when you go out and practice for what you do on the track?
A lot of running.
Yeah, no, that's understood.
A lot of running, but yeah, like especially like at the moment, like I'm doing a lot of 400-ish training, like not, nothing past like 500 and all that, but a lot of like 300, 250 work and all that, just, because I've always, especially from a young age, that was the type of training that we always did at school, because, it puts like longevity in your legs. Like, you can get, only go so fast, but like, especially in the GPS season where, it's you got like a 6-week bracket and you're performing every single weekend, like you constantly need to back up and you constantly need to perform, rather than, with the Australian athletic system where, you might not run for 2 weeks and you give yourself like 2-3 week breaks in between.
Yeah.
And at Kings, you're running like, week after week after week for, a 2-month period. So having that, longevity in my legs put me in a place so like I could perform it at, constantly at like a high level, week after week after week after week. So doing that at the moment, putting longevity into the legs and just putting the work in, putting the hard yards in.
I love it, mate. So, how old? May I ask how old you are?
Yeah, 19.
19. So, one thing that's very prominent in today's society with like young males is the mental health sort of side of things. How do you go from running your race, say if you don't get that win? I know you're not about that life, but what do you do to kind of, help yourself out mentally in regards to calm down?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring that up because I know a lot of people, especially males, especially people in my family who've battled with, tough mental health issues. And even with me, like I had anxiety and I was like really, really bad as a kid. It was terrible as a kid. Like, some days I couldn't go outside and, I had to stay inside just because, like, I was so scared of, back then I was scared of it because, like, I was a thinker. To be fair, I still am, but I was a thinker as a kid. I was always just thinking about something. I always had something on my mind. And whenever a thought would come into my head, it just scared the life out of me. And, I couldn't go outside. I couldn't do anything. And then, when I started athletics, like, it's crazy because, like, yeah, athletics isn't the entirety of John Gikas. Like, athletics is obviously an aspect of my life, but it isn't the entirety. But I wouldn't be where I am today without athletics and what it taught me and the fact that it gave me the confidence to overcome that. It's like, yeah, I don't get anxiety much anymore because athletics really put everything into perspective for me. And I guess when it comes to race season, and you're going out there competing very often, and the fact that it's just you, and if you're running 100, you have 10, 11, 9 seconds to do your piece rather than being on the footy pitch or like playing at a basketball game and having 50 to an hour and a half to do your bit. It does put a lot of pressure on you. But the good thing about, the training at Kings that I did at Kings and running in front of heaps of people, especially as a younger kid, it makes you do, like, it doesn't make you like not acknowledge the pressure. It makes you appreciate it and embrace it and just use it, harness the energy of the pressure, and helps you in, getting prepared and, thinking to yourself, right, these are the stakes, this is what I've got in front of me, what's my approach, and then trying your best to execute. And if you don't, there's always going to be another day. But, as long as you have the game plan in mind and you're confident and you've done all the preparation is a big thing as well, being well prepared and, eating the right food, stretching the night before, having a good warm-up. They all play a very small role, like, 1%ers that go towards being the 100%, which is your ability to compete on the day. So it's just, getting all the little things right and, staying in a routine and not doing too much different. And expecting the unexpected is another big thing as well. It's like, you never know what's going to happen out there. Anything can happen. That's the beauty of our sport. So, yeah, when you put all into perspective and you sit down and really think about, what you're doing, like, you think to yourself, I could be in worse situations, and there are situations I could be in. Like, there are real people out there, who have very low socioeconomic status, who are fighting every day, living paycheck to paycheck, and they're the real, they're the real athletes. They're the real people who are trying to, make a living for themselves. You know, at the end of the day, we're just running a straight line, hope for the best. You know, so that's what it's all about to me, at least. So
I love that, mate. Well done. Would you ever go back to doing soccer? Well, sorry, football. I don't mean to offend you.
No, it's all good. I'm not one of those people. I get
That's
it.
all right.
And maybe after athletics, sure.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't like terrible at it, but I wasn't amazing at it. So, but like the thing is that like all my mates, they all play soccer and they have their own soccer team, and I go and support them.
Yeah.
You know, cheer hard for them. But yeah, maybe athletics, I might play, but you know, who knows? That's a long way away.
That's
so,
all right.
Who knows?
I like how you touched on the fact like that you do have that team element when you go into basketball and you go into the soccer and football.
Yeah.
And when you're talking athletics, it does seem somewhat like a very solo effort. But do you,
Yes.
At your school, what's the team like? How are they in regards to support?
The way I saw it when I was at school, especially when I was one of the co-captains in my last year at Kings, it's like when you go on the day, like the people who are in your team, the people who are with you there on the track, you know, running with you on the day, you know, you kind of set the stage for them, which means you have to be on top of your game. And yeah, it puts more pressure, but you know, as I said before, the pressure makes you more prepared. Well, at least it makes me more prepared, and you kind of learn that after running. You know, I ran GPS for 5 years, I think, and one year I actually didn't make it, and I remember being devastated that year. And I remember it was in year 8 because I remember running in year 7 and ran the relay year 7, and I did run in year 8, didn't get it, I wasn't good enough. Then I remember running in year 9, and then in year 10 was when I ran my first Opens event, and I remember experiencing it, being like, oh, this is what it's like to, you know, be on top of your game and be one of the all-star athletes on the day. And because I knew what it took, I had that experience to be like, okay, this is how I've got to act, this is how I've got to present myself, this is how I've got to step up to the level that I should be. And you know, it's like the classic lead by example line where everyone else in the team kind of, because you're the captain and because they look up to you, you lead by example and by what you do and how you conduct yourself. Everyone else will fall into line. And that was the way that it was in Kings. And I kind of saw myself, you know, this is a gross example. I kind of saw myself as like the LeBron James to the Cleveland Cavaliers, you know. So
no,
like,
we don't talk about that sort of person on my podcast. Thanks, mate.
But I felt like I had that level of responsibility. That's how it felt on the day. So it was just all about, and especially like during the training sessions, just constantly being on top of my game and always working hard and working smart. And everyone else kind of, you know, asking me for advice and you giving the time to the younger kids. And you know, again, it's all the 1%ers that, you know, all come together. And you know, you like the people, you know, the supporters only see the results on the GPS days and at the invitational carnivals. But you know, the amount of work that gets put in and the amount of hours and the amount of mental strength it all takes is incredible. And Kings was amazing. Like, and again, it came down to the coach as well. Like having Nancy Addison and Ben Gavin there, and all the other coaches. You know, they have so much experience, so much experience in what they do, and they certainly help you get across the line and hopefully we lift up a trophy at the end of the day.
Love it, mate. So what's next for you in regards to your sport of choosing? So that 100 metre and 200, are you setting yourself in the Australian colours?
You'd obviously hope to. That's the goal, to represent your country and represent, you know, your family, especially. So any chance I'd get to run the green and gold would be an absolute honour, and I would take it at the drop of a dime.
Beautiful. So, have Mum and Dad ever been involved in athletics, or is it just yourself that's jumped on board?
No, my parents weren't very sporty at all. My mum played, you know, some sport at school, but my dad, you know, is not a very sporty person. Like, yeah, he watches the NRL and the Origin every now and then. But
who's he go for in the NRL? Is he a Tigers fan as well?
Nah, he goes for Broncos for some reason. He didn't even grow up in Queensland. Who knows what's gone through my father's mind, but
That's all right. Well, I'm in Adelaide, so I've got no choice but to go for someone else. I'm a Melbourne Storm boy, so I jumped on the bandwagon in 2007, and I've just been given championship after championship, so I'm happy. But
fair enough. Can't complain.
It's cool how it all works out, and we can go full circle here. You're talking about Kawhi Leonard, and the people that we look up to. How did you actually go ahead supporting Raptors? Was it him or?
No, it was. I started supporting them, I'd say, for about 4 or 5 years ago, and I remember first getting into basketball because some of my mates were into it. I didn't really know much about the sport at first, and I was at the stage where I'm like, I'm going to look for a team to support. I was watching all the teams play, and I'd watch all the teams play, for a couple of weeks, and you could tell that the way the Raptors conducted themselves, and the fact that they're the only Canadian team, and they were the outsiders, and they were the people that all the pundits and all the supporters look down upon because they're the Canadian team, they're not American, they're never going to win, they're never going to get to the finals. They're always, and that was at the time when they had DeRozan, Lowry, Valanciunas. They had a decent lineup, and they came 4th, 5th, 6th for a couple of years straight, and they were always like, that was a team that's like, yeah, they're good, but they'll never win a championship. And even coming into this season, that's what everyone was saying. But they defied the odds, and if that isn't motivation, if that isn't inspiring, I don't know what is. But yeah, it's just the way that they conduct themselves, and how they're so humble, yet they go out on the floor and leave it all out there. It's inspiring, and that's why I was attracted to them.
That's good, mate. For those that don't know, one, I'm a massive basketball fan myself, so I'm happy I found you, mate, to chat to about it. So, Toronto Raptors, your team just won the championship, took it off of the Golden State Warriors. They were gone for the 3-peat, the 3 in a row. Mate, can you relate the feeling that you felt over an hour ago when you see them win, when you see Kawhi Leonard jump up with joy? I watched it, I was even tearing up myself, and I'm a Clippers fan. But yeah, can you relate that to anything you've done on track? How you felt in that moment?
Well, of course you can relate a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, the way the NBA is looked upon in American sport, and how it's one of the apart from the NFL, it's one of the most, it's like the headline sport of America. And you look at the media and what everyone's saying, and all the eyes that are on all the players and the discussion and what happens in the games, and how I can't remember if it was the last game. I think it might have been game 4 when Kyle Lowry went to the seats and one of the owners pushed and shoved him, and there was a massive debate, and the GPS doesn't have any of that.
No.
And yeah, it has a lot of eyes on you. Yeah, there's a lot of people on the day, but it's playing in the NBA finals would dwarfs GPS, but yeah, of course you can kind of relate, to, especially from where I come from, and I had to, work my way up to be where I was on my last GPS day. You can kind of see, I kind of relate to more the growth aspect, and the fact that, look at Fred VanVleet, for example.
Yes.
Yeah. 6th man of the Raptors. He came into the league undrafted, and 6 foot. Very, very small for an NBA player, especially by today's standards. But the Raptors believed in him, and they didn't trade him, and he's been at the team for 4 or 5 years, and he was the best player in Game 6, arguably, today. And seeing someone like that perform at such a high level and be doubted, and the other person who really truly believed in him was him. To see a performance like that and to see him conduct himself the way he did, of when they won the championship, he wasn't the person who was cheering and going crazy. He was shaking the hands of all the opposition, and giving massive respect to all of them. It's an inspiration, and it just goes to show how well the Raptors organization and the team conduct themselves, in addition to Fred VanVleet and obviously Kawhi Leonard. So. And all the other, Kyle Lowry as well, standing up there with his 2 kids. And, the first thing Kyle Lowry did was, when he won, was run up to his 2 kids and hug them.
Yeah.
Because surely, his family know how hard he's worked, other than the fans and his team and the coaches. So to see that on display is something I relate more to, rather than them holding up the trophy at the end of the day.
I love it, mate. I love all you've said today. Let's hope that one day we get to see the Kyle Lowry-esque celebration from yourself on national TV when you're wearing the green and gold. Because from what I've interviewed a few people, and your passion is up the top there, I reckon. So let's hope that we can see a lot from you in the future. Thank you very much for coming on my podcast, and you know what? You enjoy the rest of your day, celebrate a bit more, and we'll chat to you when you're further down the track, and we'll hear from you when you win your medals.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the love, and I appreciate what you're doing as well. You're doing something special, and more people should listen to this, and more people should support what you're doing, because what you're doing is something really, really cool, and I personally appreciate it, and I'm sure a lot of other people in the community will.
Thank you very much, mate. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Goodbye.
Bye.
How exciting to hear from John, a very passionate and humble athlete. My next talk was with race walker Alice Randall. I joined her to talk about her amazing relationship with her coach and what it will take for success in the future. Introducing Alice Randall. Do you want to have a chat about your career so far?
Yeah, so currently I am a multinational medalist for both the 5 and 10 kilometre on track and road. Yeah, that's so far the results.
Beautiful. So what are you looking to plan to do in your future? You've obviously got sights for green and gold at the Olympics, I'm hoping.
Oh, definitely long-term goal. But currently I'm looking at the World Racewalking Cup. I think it's near Switzerland. The event is being held. And the next World University Games for the 20 kilometre event.
Beautiful. So what started you wanting to become a race walker?
Well, my coach picked me up at Little Athletics in under 12s, I think it was. And she just saw potential in me and took me in and started training me, and I just improved from there.
So tell me a bit about your coach. What's she like?
Oh, she's the most wonderful woman ever. She's put so much effort and time into training me up, and just so grateful for her.
Beautiful. Are you able to give your Little Athletics club a shout out? Where did you start Little Athletics?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd like to give a shout out to East Elm Little Athletics Club. That's where my journey first started with my walking. So I'd like to thank them.
Beautiful. I started myself as a race walker, and I know it's a bunch of fun trying to get on the track to start off, and it is good. So do you have any other plans to go into other events, or you just want to stick with your race walking? Because I know a lot of race walkers actually try to run a couple, they would like to run long distances as well, or do that sort of thing. You're just fully race walking?
Yeah, no, just fully race walking, but I will do some cross-country runnings just for fun, not at a high level, just fun events.
Beautiful. So what do you do with yourself outside of race walking? Because you can't be doing that all the time.
No, so currently I'm a first-year university student studying HPE teaching, and I'm also going to start up cricket, so I thought that's something different.
Beautiful. You've got a very country tone to your voice. Do you live in the country?
Yeah, so I live on a property of 44 acres, so I have a little farm out in Brighton.
So do you find yourself walking around whilst you're doing that?
I don't race walk, but I do a lot of walking around at my place, so yeah.
It definitely does build up the legs having that much property. So
oh goodness, yeah.
What do you have any idols that you look up to in the athletic world, or is it mum and dad that you look up to? Who's driven you? Well, not as well as your coach.
Well, yeah, definitely my coach, but also my mum has been so supportive, and also I really look up to Jared Talon and Dane Bird-Smith. They're definitely idols of mine that I would like to aspire to be like.
Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. So they're definitely the main
Have you had the
ones.
privilege of racing with either boys yet?
Oh, not quite. I hope one day, definitely yes. But at the moment, no. They're doing the 20k events, and I'm not quite there yet, but definitely heading towards that.
we'll definitely have to find a well, I hope to see that you do get to that point. So you're currently doing the 5 to 10. What's have you looked into doing that 20K? What's the training going to be like if you change it?
Oh, the training will be lots of kilometres and lots of speed sessions, like 1K's times probably 15. I'll have to build up to. At the moment, I'm doing 6 times 1K, so that'll be a big jump up.
That sounds right then. So you've done your Oceania Games. You just competed yesterday. You were telling me that you had a bit of issue on track. That's okay.
Yeah.
All the greats do have issues. Hopefully you can bounce back from that. So
Yeah,
where's your next? So you've got your World Cup. Your World Racing Championships that you're looking to go for. Are you doing anything else contest wise?
So in September, I think it is August, September, there's the road walking nationals, the winter road walking nationals that I'm definitely looking forward to. I think it is a 10-kilometre event.
I believe it's in
I'm
Adelaide.
hoping to do well.
Am I correct?
Pardon?
Am I correct in saying that it's in Adelaide?
Yeah. You.
There we go, my hometown. So we'll have to say hello when you get here.
Awesome. Definitely.
No, well, I thank you very much for your time. And yeah,
thank
you
you.
enjoy the rest of your time in Townsville. It's a beautiful place. I've loved seeing the pictures pop up. So yeah, enjoy the time there, and we'll chat to you when you have that gold around your neck when you're in the Olympics.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. We'll chat to you soon. Bye.
All right. See ya.
There we had Alice Randall, an athlete with a very positive future. Now for my third final athlete, Drew Semmens. Drew is a man with an amazing story that I hope you all enjoy hearing. Introducing Drew Semmens.
Mate, tell us how you started as an athlete.
Yeah, it's a funny story because I actually grew up as a sporting family. So I was actually a latecomer to athletics. So I was 16. Back in 2010, I was at school. I was doing one of my free periods while I was at school, and I got called up to the office. And it was funny, they mentioned the Paralympic Talent Search Day in Geelong was taking place on a Sunday, and I thought I'll show my parents, and I thought we'll give this a go. And they had a lot of tryouts, stuff like swimming and rowing and athletics and all that sort of stuff. And it came down to the bead test, and did okay out of that. And then I met my coach, Neil Costa, who he's still my coach to this day. And then just invited me to train on the following Tuesday night, and 9 years later, I'm still here. So it's, that's all it started.
So the rest is history. I love it.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah, look, it's look, I've had a great time so far, and hopefully plenty more to come.
Beautiful. So you mentioned Paralympics there. Do you mind telling us your disability?
Yeah, so I've got high functioning autism when I was diagnosed when I was 4. So I'm like T20, so it's intellectual disability. So as a kid growing up, wasn't easy for me because it's not like I was not living like a normal person. So while I was growing up, I think it was probably a lot more difficult to realise that a lot of people didn't know that I had a disability. And once I got older, and a lot of people started to understand that I was a little bit different like some of the others. So it was, I think it took me a fair while to adjust to it. So it was, once everyone understood and knew me a lot better, everything started to go pretty well from there.
Well, I always know that different is better anyway, mate. So it's good that you found your little niche there in athletics. Now, you're a runner. Do you have a favourite run there that you do? You got your 400s, your 200s. What's your thing?
So yeah, actually, funnily enough, I started doing 1500s when I first started athletics. So I was doing like jogs and that to keep me fit as well as playing a lot of other sport as a junior, like a lot of other juniors do. And I actually did a lot of cross-country runs when I was at high school. So I actually started off as an 800 and 1500 metre runner, and then I had changed to 4 and 8 now because 1500 was starting to get a little bit too hard on my legs. So I kept getting lower leg injuries and shin splints and all that sort of stuff. I was getting quite sick of it. So it was, I just thought I needed to change things up a little bit. And I think I've been doing it for the last few years, so I'm absolutely loving it and I'm enjoying it, so now, which is great.
So, in the way of success, how have you gone in regards to medaling and championship results?
Yeah, look, it's I think it's that Victorian Championships have performed quite well in AWD event. and no disrespect to any others, I live in like 3 or 4 people that run against me at the AWD Championships statewide and national-wise. I've been pretty lucky. I've been dual medalist a couple of times. 2016, I dual medaled in the 4 and 800 in Sydney, and then last year on the Gold Coast during the Commonwealth Games trials, I did pretty well out of that. And it was a funny story that year because I was 200 metres, I was just doing it for a bit of fun, so I thought I'd give it a go, and then actually got a bronze medal out of it, and I got 2 PBs in like space of 90 minutes, which I was absolutely over the moon with. So I was going to go there for a bit of fun, and then actually turned out I did okay out of that, and I got a 400 silver medal, I think, that day, and then early this year in Sydney got a bronze medal in the 800, and probably should have got a little bit closer if I didn't get poleaxe at the start, and then at the 400 I was probably a little bit unlucky not to get a medal, but I still was on my PB range of a 52.7, so it was, and national-wise it is a little bit challenging because there's different classifications and different competitions, so, but I like the challenge of competing at the best of my ability against the best in Australia, I should say. So,
yep.
Absolutely love the challenge.
So, do you mind talking us through the qualification standards and how you get qualified to compete in the event that you do?
So, yeah, look, it goes down in different categories. Just for T20, I think for 400 it's like a minute 10 or something like that, and I run 52, 53, but I normally tick that box off pretty much first up in the new season anyway. And the 800, I think it's 2:25 or something like that. So it's and then I do that pretty comfortably anyway. So it is pretty easy to get qualifying wise, particularly so early on in the season. So you can just sort of take your time, get building up to that between October and April, I should say. So it sort of takes a while to get yourself into the season once you know what you're doing, and I love that being the challenge. So if you can get it out of the way nice and early, then you can sort of cruise through and then sort of work that way up towards March and April. So it's sort of an even balance as a training load during the hot summer months, and it can get quite challenging, but at the same time it can be quite fun as well, so it's good.
So is it easy to get that T20 sort of, I don't want to call it a title, but classification or clarification? Do you have to go through a lot to get notified as a T20 athlete, or do they just give it to you? How does it work?
So the first time that I started, I think it was 2011, I think it was, or something. So I was the first starter pro athletics because growing up in the country was a hell of a lot different. So on a classification level for T20, sort of like you have to do like all these jigsaw puzzle things in a certain amount of time, and then you just sort of go out and do other things like running stuff as well, and do that sort of time, and also jumping as well. I did a long jump for 1 year, and you have to sort of jump at these sort of distances. So it sometimes can be a little bit daunting when you know what you do, once you know what you're doing, and they explain to you what to do and all that sort of stuff. So sometimes you sort of hack a little bit. Yeah, so it was just one of those things. Like, it can be quite confusing at times, but once you know what that, sometimes at the end of the day, once you get your classification, your right classification, you're pretty much right on the money.
I like it, mate. That sounds good. So you sound like a pretty laid back guy. What do you do in your downtime? You've just told me before that there's an ice bath that you're doing, or you're cooling down. Is that what you do? You just train, or what do you do to calm down and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so during the week, normally during winter pre-season, obviously, as you mentioned, and obviously during the season, on a Monday I normally do train at the track and normally do gym sessions for about a couple of hours, so you sort of get that strength and conditioning work out of the way, and then sort of the Tuesday nights is sort of like sprint work, and then indoor pool sessions, depends how cool it is, and then Wednesday sort of your hardest session during the week, because you want to have a really good session before the weekend, and then have a nice cool recovery, and then Thursday you sort of do a little bit of long stuff, like long run sort of stuff, and then Friday you sort of have your rest, and then Saturday you either train or doing competitions, and then Sunday you sort of recover. So it's a pretty even balance, particularly for me in the last couple of years. I've sort of got swinging things a little bit more, being more professional now, so I'm absolutely loving the challenge of doing a lot of things like a lot of professional athletes are doing, which is great. So
yeah.
I'm keen to push that one for another few years yet. I'm still pretty young, so it's I'm getting towards my peak of the career now. I have to look after my body a little bit more, so the more, the better for me.
Now, you can't be doing athletics 24/7. Is there anything else like studying that you're doing or working? What do you do with yourself?
Funnily enough, I'm a football commentator on a radio station in Carlac, which is not far from where I used to live. So I've been doing, I used to call the footy and all that on the microphone while I was at the local footy club back when I was a little boy, and then all started for me when I was 2008. I get asked this a lot because of how I started and all that sort of stuff. My brother was actually started to play senior footy at Cobden when he was 16, and I was only 14. And my grandmother was one of the radio that was doing the game. I think it was Cobden and Triangle Lake, which is another local footy club, which is not far from where we used to live. It was a funny story because my grandmother got interviewed by the commentators before the game, so it was a very, very daunting task. And then she mentioned me. Then one of the commentators came up to me and asked, "I said, you want to come on for the last quarter?" And I said, "I'd love to do it." And then I text my father, who was in hospital with my brother, and I said, "I'm going to be on the radio for the last quarter." And I reckon Mum and Dad were just jumping up and down. They couldn't believe what was going on. They had to look. I didn't know what to do because they either listen to me or look after my brother if he was having a broken collarbone in hospital. So and then it all started from there, and I'm still doing it now. And then so I'm loving it now, and I'm loving it forever before, which is great.
That's amazing, mate. I like that story. I'm in radio myself, actually, and it is a good thing to do. What you're doing there. Do you want to give it a shout? Do you want to give the radio station a shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's on Mix FM in Carlac, 106.3, which I'm doing for a different league now because the league that used to cover the radio station, I should say, used to cover to not do it anymore. They're retired now, so I couldn't be thankful to start now. We do like Carlac and District Football Netball League, which is of course the league that I've been doing for the last 6 or 7 years, and now I'm on the prime radio station for the last 4. So it's absolutely loving it. It's not easy. You've been a commentator, so you had to do a lot of study and all that sort of stuff. You don't want to get it wrong, otherwise you get criticised a fair bit, which can happen. So look, I just thought we'd do a little bit of study during the week, the players' names as well, what they've done throughout the time at the club, what they've done during the season. And you sort of just have to like you yourself, you sort of just have to make up what the go is. So I think I'm a pretty harsh. My hardest critic. So I thought sometimes when you leave games and you're thinking, well, I didn't call that game well, or then when I leave the ground, I'm thinking, I've done a pretty good job, and I listen to myself, and I'm thinking there's a few things I just sort of have to work on a little bit. So it's it's a great. I absolutely love it. I think going around local footy clubs, local footy netball clubs now, and I absolutely love working with the guys that I work on a Saturday afternoon during the footy season, and it's great, and you sort of enjoy the professional side of things. So it's hopefully there's a lot more to come, and hopefully one day I can make my way into the big leagues, which would be good.
That's amazing, mate. Look, you took the words out of my mouth pretty much. I criticise pretty much everything I do as well. So I think that's what makes us better as people. Like it's good. Do you have? So you obviously have your things in front of you when you're doing it, but do you mainly do everything on the fly?
Yeah, absolutely. I just sort of go study the players' names from each team and just sort of work your way down. And then you sort of once you know who you are, because I know I was for a longer period of time, and you sort of get things a little bit easier. Once a new player comes to the footy club from another region, then it becomes a little more complicated because you don't know where they are and what they do. So it sort of can be quite daunting, and you sort of have to do your research for like 10, 20 minutes every Friday night before a game. So it can be quite daunting. You don't want to get it right, for me personally. So as a footy commentator, from what I've realised from what I've done it every year, is listen to back what I've done and go through what's going on. So it is quite daunting, but at the same time, you sort of know who they are. Once you know who you are, then the rest is history. So if you know, like I said, if you know the player and players for a longer period of time and they're wearing the same number, then you've got no worries at all.
So how do you compare calling a footy game compared to calling a race? Not calling a race, running a race.
It's a good question. I think it's probably more like I think for athletics, you sort of have to prepare for like training like every day for it. It's sort of like you're still doing running every single day, doing the same lot of stuff. You know what you're doing and all that sort of stuff. But calling a footy on a Saturday, while to study during the week is probably not as much. Depends who's playing, and depends. I think it's probably more running. That's probably more everyday activity, pretty much, except during like competitions during one day a week. But in the footy, it's more like one game every week. So and there's all 5 games that are on a Saturday, and we only get to pick one out of it. So it's sort of it's a hard one to answer that really, because sort of like running's probably more everyday activity, while for footy it's probably only one game at a time. So it's probably more a professional sense, but at the same time you get a lot more joy out of them both.
I love that answer, mate. Well done on it. Before you go, I've got one more question for you, and that is, what words of advice would you offer to up-and-coming athletes and up-and-coming commentators as well, like people that are trying to make it that extra step in whatever they're doing in life, whether it be work or whether it be stepping into a new sport? What would you say to them?
I'd just say just go ahead and take it. Like, I think you've got to enjoy every day, whatever it comes. Like, if you want to go have a go at it, then have a go at it. Like, just enjoy what you do. If it's like go for a run and you love what you do every day, you love competing, make friends or whatever, just enjoy whatever comes along. As a commentator, just be yourself. Just sort of do what you do while the commentator home in front of the TV on a Friday night for calling AFL games and get ready for the Saturday. Just make sure you enjoy whatever comes along, because life is very short, and just sort of like get the feel for what's going on and just enjoy whatever comes along, like I said. So just be yourself, have fun, and that's all that matters. If you win during the race, it's great. If you lose, well, don't worry about it, you move on. Simple as that. So I'm a pretty big into sport, as I already can tell. So it's just like I said, enjoy whatever comes along, because it's not going to happen. It's going to come around pretty quickly, and then whatever comes around comes around.
That's yeah, mate. I don't know if you get told this very often, but I'm finding you quite inspirational. For you to have what you started off with as a child, and then to come through and achieve what you're doing now, it's just amazing. And I wish you the best of luck with your future and whatever comes your way. So thank you very much for joining me on 2020 Vision.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, mate. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
A very inspiring story from Drew there. I hope you enjoyed that, and as well as my chats with Alice and John. Thank you for joining me on episode 9 of 2020 Vision. I hope you can join me next week. Who knows who we're going to get.
Thank you for listening to another episode of 2020 Vision. If you want to find us elsewhere, go to Podbean, YouTube or Spotify and type in 2020 Vision. You can also find us on Facebook. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.